You want details? Fine. I drive a Ferrari, 355 Cabriolet. What's up? I have a ridiculous house in the South Fork. I have every toy you can possibly imagine. And best of all, kids, I am liquid. So, now you know what's possible. Let me tell you what's required.
If you want to hit up Life Advice, lifeadvicerr@gmail. All right, Ryan and Kyle, hope you guys are doing well. Here we go. Let me start with the basics. Name's Eric. He said, you can use my name because there's nothing in that people who know me don't already know. He says, I'm 36, wife, young son, nice house, fulfilling job. I consider myself, my family of 3 to be upper middle class. He works out of Oregon. He's part of the COVID contact tracing program. Okay. So he says he's knee deep in stress, 5 years in the Army and deployed to Afghanistan in 2010. So you can say I've already had a fair bit of experience with stress. In fact, I was shot through the leg on Easter Sunday in 2011. Whoa, this is intense. So, hey man, shout out to you for all that stuff. So stress is maybe an accelerator, but not the main problem. The problem is my weight. I'm 6'4" and weigh about 350. I've not always been heavy. In fact, growing up, I was very skinny. As a freshman in college, riding the bench on a D3 soccer team, I weighed about 180 pounds. During my 20s in the Army, my fighting weight was anywhere from 230 to 250, depending on how much PT I was doing and how much boozing. I was doing a lot of boozing and continued to do so after I was medically retired from the Army, enough where my wife gave me an ultimatum about 2.5 years ago. I've been sober ever since. That's awesome. I assumed that not ingesting that many empty calories would naturally slim me down, but I continued adding weight. I got really motivated in the beginning of 2019 and lost about 40 pounds, bottomed out at 302. I worked with a personal trainer, was doing intermittent fasting, but fell out of my routine about a year ago. Obviously, due to the pandemic, I haven't gone to the gym or played in my normal Sunday morning basketball game since March of last year. Since last year, Since last year, I've lost all my progress and have added even additional weight. For months now, my motivation has been in the tank, but I can feel it rising again. Obviously, going to the gym is out. However, because of my socioeconomic status, I have some money in the budget to buy some home gym equipment, and I'm not going to lift to improve the stats in the back of my baseball card, but rather to lose weight and tone up. I've had my eyes on elliptical, as that's one of my go-to cardio exercises due to the low impact it has on my leg. But I could use some advice on the other pieces to prioritize. Obviously, a bench and plates come first to mind, but I'd rather get some stuff that is versatile and will allow me to get the most bang for my buck. Also, I'd appreciate any tips on keeping the motivation up because I don't want to keep starting and stopping. And I am tired of being the fat guy when I spent much of my life being the fit or skinny guy. Thank you in advance. Thanks for the podcast. All right, man. Look, that's some really heavy, deep stuff. And you went through a couple things there, obviously being shot in Afghanistan and then having your wife being like, look, enough of the drinking. So let's, I see a lot of positives in here. I really do. And I'm not saying that because I want you to feel better about yourself, because obviously writing the email and being like, hey, I'm 350 plus, this sucks. I don't want to do this anymore. The fact that you even said that is really like to go, hey, this sucks. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not, the people that are doing like, oh, okay, first step is admitting or whatever, all that stuff. Okay, fine. But who cares? You wrote an email. You're upset about how you feel and you don't want to feel that way anymore. So that means you're going to change it because it's already proven twice that you can do it. You've already dropped 40 pounds, so you can do it again and you can drop even more. I have no question about that. And the fact that your wife, some people will send in some of the stuff that I just don't feel qualified to, like, hey, we got one from a guy saying like, my girlfriend drinks too much. What should I do? And I was like, I don't know that I should answer this because I'm just a dude with a podcast. But since you decided, the habit part of this is really where you're going to want to start. Because if you do anything over the course of a month, at least my experience, then it starts to become your habit. So on a much lesser important thing, when I wanted to write, I was like, look, I got to give myself a month where if I sit down, and I'm not saying I'm writing 30 days in a row, but if I start from, day one and over the course of the next 30 days, write every other day or look at a script or look at something that I'm working on 20 out of those 30 days, when I don't do it after those 30 days are up, then it feels like something's missing. And it's the exact same thing with working out. So you have to decide a start date and promise yourself, which I actually believe that you're going to be able to do because of the military background and because of the big things that you've been able to do in the past, that you're just going to have to say to yourself, like, okay, November 1st or whatever your start date is, I am going to, over the course of the next 30 days, work out 15 times. Okay. 15 times out of the next 30, I'm going to sweat. And it doesn't matter what it is. Like people that want to give, like when I was younger and there was somebody super heavy at the gym and maybe doing it wrong, because I'm younger and I'm a prick, I could be like, oh, look at this guy. You get older and you're like, look at that guy. Like he's in here trying. Like that guy's decided to make a decision, like obviously I'm being redundant there, but this person has made a decision that enough is enough. And it sounds like you're right on the cusp of that. So this is awesome. This is awesome that you're going, all right, I want to do this anymore. So with the leg thing, the elliptical is a big deal. My leg injury was far less serious when I had a crack in it. So I did the elliptical too. I was not shot in Afghanistan, obviously, or I would have told that story already. So that is going to be part, because when you're this big, getting the sweat, like it's going to suck. It's going to suck in the beginning, but you have to tell yourself at the end of 30 days, you've gotten a sweat like 15 times. And again, there could be a trainer listening to this, oh, this is stupid. This is the wrong way to do it. You have to get yourself to the point where when you're not doing something active and you're not sweating, it bothers you. I'm in a hotel today. There's literally no good workout equipment. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to feel way better if I just move some stuff around. There was barely anything to do. I just put something together. In between sets, I would hit the Peloton and not even turn it on. And I would go hard for 1 minute to 2 minutes. And that would be my rest in between moving some dumbbells around. And 50 minutes later, I was sweating and I just felt better because now I've reset. And that's something that's really important to me. It's important for the mental break of, okay, I want to put myself through it. And it's going to suck for you. But sometimes I like when it sucks. I like to almost punish myself in a way where I'm like, okay, I want this to be hard. I want to quit. I want to give up. I want to see if I'm going to stop. I went on a hike the other day. I was like dripping sweat. It was I went up the wrong trail. I went up like the one that's harder. And I was stressed for time, and it was a huge mistake. And I wanted to quit like 2 or 3 times because my legs were killing me. And I was like, I'm just not going to, because I want to like punish myself because the punishment of not getting this done, a couple days from now, I'm going to think, you didn't accomplish something that you set out to do. So let's do this. Check in a month. Promise that you'll start, pick a date that matters. And you said you wanted to talk about the equipment. It's really hard to find anything out there. Buy the rubber bands, buy the resistant bands, and look up some of that stuff, and just some of that band work, like stretching it in front of your chest, and doing 4 sets of 20 with a lighter band. Having the band wrapped around something and doing tricep stuff, or doing stuff where you pull it back with your shoulders, or some of the squat stuff that's going to be really hard at your size, but just body squat weight, planking, leg lifts, all that kind of stuff. You can do all of that in a room. You don't even need any of the equipment. It's just, you have to decide enough is enough. And considering you've made some pretty big decisions already, I don't have any doubt that you can figure this out again. Because if you want to be that guy that's not 350, you can. But some people, I'll leave you with this. Like when I was younger and I screwed up my credit because I just didn't know any better. You get the credit cards when you go to school. It's like, hey, you get a $500 credit card from Amex and an awesome travel voucher. Okay, the travel voucher I never used because I didn't have any money to go anywhere. And I immediately put $500 on it. And then guess what? Amex didn't send the bill to my dorm room. It wasn't like one of those fraternity scams where you're like, hey, John Cocktoaston has a MasterCard. But I, stupid 18. I'm like, well, if they didn't send me the bill, and they're like, well, guess what? The bill exists, and now you're late on this for a year straight. And then once the credit was destroyed, I kind of didn't care. Like I cared even less about bad credit decisions afterwards. This is far more serious, but like I have a buddy that, has a pretty clear drinking problem. But once it was out in the open that he was just, a guy that had serious issues with drinking, it got way worse because he was kind of like, all right, well, now that everybody knows I'm a drunk, like now I really don't care. Now it's just out in the open. It wasn't like anybody was going to learn something new about him. It wasn't like he was like, oh, I've been hiding this the whole time. He's like, okay, so now that everybody knows it's a disaster, I'm going to make it even worse. And I think that can happen with us when things start going bad. We care so little about fixing it because now it's going to be like, well, whatever. I'm already 300 pounds. Who gives a shit? Now I'll be 350. But you sent the email. You already know what to do. You've lost the weight not that long ago. And there's no doubt that you can do this again. But don't let you have to decide, hey, this is going to be the most important thing over the next 30 days. And if you want to find the time, you can. If you come back a month later and say, I didn't find the time, then I guess you didn't really want it that bad. Okay, we'll do another quick one here. He says, please don't use the name. All right. 32-year-old single male, enjoys doing yoga a few times a week. Something I picked up a couple years ago, more flexible, on and on. I live in Scottsdale, and if you're familiar with Scottsdale, you can probably imagine the sort of talent that is walking into these yoga classes. I am familiar with Scottsdale. As one of the only guys in each class, it can be a bit intimidating and weird, but I've never treated this place like a bar or a nightclub. Actually, in Scottsdale, probably like a nightclub. I don't use this to talk to women. The last thing I want to do is bother someone and be that creepy guy hitting on your yoga classmates. My social cues with girls are awkward enough, and even though I have good intentions of just wanting to meet somebody, it would feel even more awkward doing it in a setting like this, especially in a place that a lot of people take very seriously from a spiritual and meditative perspective and use it as escape from their daily BS. All right. Okay. This guy's, he's out there in a good way about what the vibe is in the yoga class. I've been taking one of the classes with this really cool instructor throughout the past several months. We talk a little bit before and after the class, but nothing more serious than how our favorite sports teams are doing, or the typical, hey, good to see you. How's your day? Okay. So don't feel too, I was aware of how the normal dated, but I'm being mean. I also don't feel too comfortable taking a Steph Curry shot from the logo and asking her out in front of the other students. Okay, well, first things, don't ask her out in front of the other students. If you're going to ask her out, don't ever do it. You could find the time to not ask her that way, okay? But then also don't wait in the parking lot for her to walk out by herself, because then, next thing you know, we're talking Bravo special. All right. Okay, I can deal with being shut down. It wouldn't be the first time or last time, but my main concern is making awkward with her and messing up the vibe if I did ask her out. And she felt like I was overstepping my boundaries and breaking some sort of teacher-student code if she was just flat out not interested. What's your take on over-the-top, inappropriate to ask an instructor out to watch a game, get a drink, or something like that? I think everybody's always like, man, who cares? Just go ahead and do it. Ask her out. Because everybody does that, because we're not the ones that have to ask her out. So I don't want to do that to you, because I, over the course of my life, have not been some of my buddies, I've shared this guy's with you before, but they're like, why can't you just ask out that actress? I'm like, with a super famous actress who's like 15 years younger than me. Because I'm not gonna, like, are you kidding me? So I don't want to just say, hey, just ask her out. Now, first thing you need to do is make sure that she doesn't have a boyfriend, because if she's a hot yoga instructor in Scottsdale, I mean, this is like one of Simmons' great lines about the movie The Replacements, where it was, who was it? It was the head of she was like the cheerleader captain. She was a bartender, but she was also the daughter of the owner of the football team, and she just happened to be single. It's like, yeah, because that girl has a hard time finding guys to date. So the thing I've learned about Scottsdale, and this is why Instagram exists, it's also for everybody to share their tips on wellness, but you can also kind of find out, although some girls really hide it because they want to make sure they keep getting followers. But you can find out, like, if somebody's with somebody or not. So make sure you get that one out of the way, because if she's an attractive yoga instructor, Scottsdale, there's a chance there's a guy that's interested. The other thing that I've noticed too about Scottsdale pictures, I mean, this isn't specific to Scottsdale, but you'll see some, like, one of my friends wanted to ask out this girl. She's in her 20s, and she's gorgeous, and she's in Scottsdale. And the pictures, the house that she's in where these pictures are taken, it doesn't exactly look like a townhouse or a condo, okay? And I'm not dumping on any, this is not a gender thing. I'm just saying at 25, I probably couldn't afford a 6,000 square foot mansion with like an indoor-outdoor pool setup in Scottsdale. So there's a really good chance, like a lot of these people taking pictures, they're taking a picture at somebody's house who's paying for it, who's probably, it's probably a dude, okay? So let's get that one out of the way. Now, there's a way to do this. I'm a little worried when you said your social cues. So you may not even be picking up on stuff. You may have already been shut down and you don't know it, or you may have already been invited and you don't know it. So I think what you need to do is you need to do like the soft invite, where if you're talking about your sports teams or anything like that, don't ask her out in front of everybody else, okay? Because that's just awkward. But I think, and maybe you can't pick up on this, but most of us, I'd like to think, like, you can kind of tell, hey, this person might be cool with me asking for their phone number. Okay, this person might not be cool with me asking for their phone number. You have to find some kind of soft intro into, would you want to meet up or do something or talk without it sounding like a date. And it's tough for me to kind of give you advice on that without knowing the full details here. But something like, well, if you ask her where you live, then you sound like a creep too. I don't know if you own a house, be like, hey, do you have a real estate agent in town? Boom. Okay, well, what does that mean? All right, well, I'm looking at potentially moving. Okay, if you're friendly, maybe she tells you, hey, I live over here. It's great. Or, hey, I'm also looking for something like that. Okay, cool. Could you introduce me? Look, realtors, don't worry about it. You're not dating the realtor. There's something like that. I mean, you could do something super generic about like, hey, what's your favorite team? Would you want to watch a game together? But then it's sort of a date. But you need to figure out some way to ask her about something she's interested in, that she's actually going to want to engage in. And from there, you should be able to pick it up and hint that perhaps like, oh, hey, don't say, hey, I'd love to see your house sometime because of a potential real estate deal. But like, oh, maybe the three of us could meet up with your agent, or, hey, if your agent doesn't make it, that wouldn't be bad either. Hey, so now you're a funny guy and all that kind of stuff. what if you were older, creepy jerk Scottsdale guy, you could say, hey, do you want to look at a place? I'm thinking about opening up my own studio, and do you want to run it? And then knowing that you can't afford to run the studio and that she's not going to run it anyway. That's what older jerks do. So you could try that too. But I would say don't do that one because I don't want to be giving out jerk advice. All right. Hit us up at lifeadvicerr@gmail.com. Have a great week, everybody. Be back. I think Van Pelt's going to join us this week. So excited about that and a couple other things. I don't know if we'll do Weird Wednesday or not, but I do have a good guest lineup coming the rest of the week. Please subscribe, rate, and review to the Ryen Russillo podcast, Spotify, and the Ringer Network. Thanks.